And a good morning to you on this Monday. Welcome on in to Lunch with Claibs and Joe here on claibsonline.com. We're powered by Ameren, Illinois, driven by Munganast St. Louis Acura. I'm Joe Roderick, joined alongside by Mike Claiborne, who's already in the broadcast booth there at Jupiter at Roger Dean Chevrolet Stadium.
Good morning.
You ready to go for your first broadcast of the year?
Yeah, I'm just, you know what, I may be filling in the latter part of the game. My stream games start tomorrow, so I'm just getting my head right for it. So, we got the Mets today, pretty decent lineup for the Cardinals, so it should be fun. Looking forward to it.
You've already had two games this weekend. I know you were out there for those, and we've seen all across baseball the new rule changes are in effect for the spring training games. The Braves and Red Sox game ended interesting fashion the other day in a tie, but we're seeing some players having to adjust quite a bit to the new pitch clock rules.
Yeah, and you know what the good thing about it, Joe, is they came out swinging with regard to making sure that the rules are going to be this way, from day one. There's not going to be a settling in time. They're going to call them and enforce them from day one, and I'm good with that. I thought it was going to take until June, but by the way they've enforced it, I think that this thing will happen a lot sooner, where people will be in sync. I was talking to Eduardo Perez today about it. And, he kind of thought like the hitters would be at a disadvantage. I'm of the belief the pitchers would be at a disadvantage. And it wouldn't be a bad idea if everybody knew the rules, because yesterday we had a little bit of an issue between the umpires knowing when to start the clock, when an inning started. And Jordan Hicks got popped for a pitch he didn't even throw. And this happened a couple of other times. So they had to get on the phone with MLB. MLB had a representative here to kind of go over the rules again with both managers. They got it figured out by the seventh inning.
Yeah, and you know what? This is spring training for the umpires too. They have to do they have to learn everything that's going to be new to them, the same way that the players do. So that's the beauty of this. These games don't matter. These
it practice games.
Yeah,
that's what you're doing, practicing
right
on being better, and umpires need the same thing. By the way, CB Buckner's working today here at the ballpark.
Had it on my list. I was going to bring that up for that in just a bit. I was going to say, I don't know if you saw this. There are some guys that I haven't seen Gallegos throw yet. When is he scheduled to throw?
It's not today. It's not today. Probably tomorrow. I'll tell you who's scheduled to throw today. If you give me 1 second here, I got a bunch of notes here in front of me. Scheduled to pitch today: Anthony Masevich, Chris Stratton, Andre Palante, and Jake Walsh.
Okay. And then Thomas is starting, right?
Connor Thomas is starting.
Yeah. So I saw that, when you look at some guys that, we know Giovanni Gallegos, it's going to take him some time to figure it out.
I don't think it will. I don't think it will, because I watched him the other day, and he was between 9 and 12 seconds.
Okay.
The two guys I've seen him 9 and 12 seconds. So now here's the challenge. You might be within reason of that time frame, but I don't know if your stuff is as good, because he got lit up the other day.
Yeah. I'm looking at, certain guys like the pitcher for Cleveland, whoever 99 is for the Guardians. I don't know if you saw the video of him yesterday. Yeah. He's on the mound. Every pitch, he takes the ball, tosses it back and forth between his glove and his bare hand, messes with his hair. His hair's about as long as mine, messes with that, goes back and forth, tosses it up, and then gets up there ready to go. And you're watching this and you're just like, how have you not cut this out yet? Like, yeah. I get that it's a tick. It's like, Nomar Garcia-Parra, but on the mound right now, it's you've had several months to work this out. You knew this was coming. At some point you got to be able to pitch in the big leagues without going through all those little ticks.
I could not agree with you more. This isn't something they just sprung on these guys. They had a whole off season and they had spring training to work through it. And as I said, they haven't flinched a bit, the umpires, and they know that the league is behind them, and they're going to call us in the book.
Yeah, let's talk about CB Buckner, as he's at the game today. Made headlines all over the sports world this past weekend. As Ali Marmol went out there, tried to shake his hand. CB Buckner wouldn't shake his hand after the game. Ali Marmol did not hold back on what he had to say, saying that he has zero class, telling Derek Gould to write it in all caps.
Well, I agree with him. And this isn't the first time we've had issues with CB. This is a few years ago. He didn't know whether to pull the tarp or not. And we very seldom have rainouts here or games that get banged because of rain. But because he didn't know what he was doing, he was in the clubhouse playing cards, not paying attention to the game. I don't like to bang umpires that much, but I don't see CB Buckner as being one of the better umpires in baseball. Let's just put it that way.
What does Major League Baseball, what are they going to do? What should they do if there is all of this drama, or if there's this tension between Ali Marmol and CB Buckner? How do you go about scheduling him during the season when it comes to Cardinal games?
That's a great question. I don't know what you do. Do you get them in a room and tell them to figure it out? Do you fine them both? I think both of them will probably get fined. What you do from this point on, I don't know, because we're going to see CB a few more times before spring training is over with. It'll be interesting today to see how he reacts and to see how both of them react. So I'm just going to kind of wait and see. I don't want to make this a mountain out of a molehill, but it really is.
Do you remember a scenario where umpires were not allowed to work for certain teams?
No, because that diminishes your credibility.
Yeah.
So I think that in this situation, they got to get it figured out. Because if he is not allowed to work Cardinal games and not scheduled, then his credibility comes into play. And all of a sudden, somebody else will start thinking, well, this guy's got it in for us. And this guy, now all of a sudden, the whole league's got a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll see how that plays out, and everyone will be watching that pregame the pregame lineups today. If Ali's the one that goes out to exchange the lineups today for the Mets and Cardinals there at Roger Dean. The game today is on ESPN, so if you're looking to watch the game and maybe you're home and you want to check out and see some of the new Cardinal players, you can do that. But over the weekend, we've known for a while there have been some issues with the regional sports networks and the possible filing of bankruptcy with the Diamond Sports Network. And recently over the weekend, we find out that they are going to file for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. And as of right now, sports fans do not know what that means come the end of March or April, what that means, not only for baseball, but for basketball, for hockey. There are a lot of teams that are affected by this, by the possibility of losing these regional sports networks.
Yeah, you're right. I know the NBA was talking to somebody last night that, they're negotiating a new CBA. And that was one of the first things that came up the other day in their meetings with regard to what are we doing about this? Because, obviously that's some revenue that these teams and these owners and certainly these players were counting on. So we'll have to stay tuned. I don't know if it's going to get resolved quickly. You hear that MLB is going to take it over. But, I think the problem that we have is because it's so late in the year. I mean, we're going to be playing baseball in a month. And when you have a situation like that, it's hard to move a lot of pieces. My only issue is, are you going to allow the same people who messed this thing up to still be in charge?
Right.
And if you aren't, then who's going to replace them?
What are the options that you have heard for the start of baseball season?
I've heard the MLB would take it over, and from a revenue sharing standpoint, the teams that have already established themselves as moneymakers will get a bigger piece of the pie. And at that point, I think you'll see teams really kick the tires on taking it in house.
Yeah.
I think
what does that look like? I mean, does that look, are we talking games on Channel 5, on Channel 11? What are we?
I don't know.
Because that opens up so many different possibilities too. When you look at those networks, I mean, I'm sure Frank would love to have the Cardinal games on Channel 5 every night, but I don't know if NBC would want to miss out on whatever Chicago PD, Chicago Fire show that they're having to run on delay.
I don't think it'll be a network situation. I think you have enough outlets. Maybe you go in-house and you can put it on your own network. The Cardinals are one of the fortunate ones that have enough content where they can do it 12 months a year.
Right.
But I don't think this is a network thing. If it is, I think your point is a valid one about the networks and what about our programming. So Yeah, I think the era of network TV carrying major sports is winding down.
Yeah, the as far as the Cardinals network, we see now what the Yankees have their own, the Cubs have their own. The Cardinals have enough. As you mentioned, they have enough content. They have a big enough fan base.
Well,
I
here's the other thing. Hold on for a second. The other thing is this takes you off the hook of dealing with these cable outlets who were falling out with DishNet and Direct TV, because they didn't want to pay them. So you gotta kind of think about that too, on how do you still distribute your product with networks that weren't getting along with Sinclair.
yeah, I don't know how DirecTV hangs around much longer now that they've lost the NFL Sunday Ticket package.
They'll restructure.
Yeah, for
They'll
a lot
restructure.
less. Yeah, if I was going to say, folks should be paying a lot less for that if they're losing the NFL Sunday Ticket,
Well,
which is
that's a
kind of the
separate.
big. Yeah,
Wait a minute, that's a separate price they're paying. They're not paying. That's nothing going to your
but
monthly
I think
fee.
that's where a lot of the customers are coming from, though.
Not really. Not as many as you think.
That's when I dropped it. I dropped DirecTV when I realized there were better options for NFL Sunday Ticket when you can get the Red Zone channel on Hulu for $15 a month rather than
Yep.
paying as much as I was for DirecTV. The second I learned that, I haven't looked back as far as that goes. So other things out baseball wise, yeah, you start streaming tomorrow, so people can listen to games there. They can listen to Polo and Benji call games if they want to listen to the Spanish broadcast. They're calling some games this in spring training as well for the first time. So plenty of ways to listen, to watch to Cardinals spring training games for the next month now, as the games are all underway. Let's talk about some stuff that we've seen on the field. Jordan Walker yesterday hits an absolute bomb, 430-foot home run, his first home run of the spring. We've talked about it. I mean, Jordan Walker is going to have to prove himself to make it really, really hard for the Cardinals not to take him to St. Louis if he wants a job with the Redbirds to start the season.
Well, he got off to a good start yesterday. He also legged out an infield hit. But it's the first time, so I don't get too. The first week of the season, I don't spring training. I don't really get too worked up because I think that most of these guys are seeing nothing but fastballs, maybe a changeup from time to time. So they have to go through the whole arsenal of what pitchers are going to throw. I think the third week of spring training is a better week to assess what you really are. But anytime you have a positive result, whether it's the first game or the next to last game, it's a good thing. So let's build on the positive here. And then somebody's going to play themselves off the roster. I mean, take that into account. So, but you can't assess it in one week. I think that's fool's gold.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yep.
before we go any further, let me remind everybody about why we're here, courtesy of our good friends from Munganess Burkhardt Toyota in Alton, Illinois. And I know that people are still in the car business and car market. And believe it, folks, while there's a little bit more inventory, they can get you what you want. And I think that's one of the things that some people have been, like persuaded not to do. I can't get a car. Yeah, sure you can. Go in and let them know exactly what you want, and they'll get it to you. Now, does it happen in a week? Maybe not. But the bottom line is you can still get what you want. And they got a great selection of pre-owned cars as well, over 250. Think about that. There's not many stores around town that have 250 used cars. They've got all makes and models. And I think when you get a chance to look online or go in for yourself and see at Munganess Burkhardt Toyota in Alton, Illinois, I think you'll see for yourself on why everybody seems to be able to find exactly what they're looking for when they go there. So go check them out.
Yeah, that's our official spring training sponsor here on Claibs Online, and coming up here very soon, we'll have the Commissioner Rick Hummel. He'll be starting his stuff with us here on Claibs Online. And if you haven't seen the interview yet, or watched or listened to it last week, Mike Claiborne sat down with Ozzie Smith and Nolan Arenado, their first ever meeting. And about 20 minutes of those two talking defense and their approach to the game. If you are a fan of the game, if you are a baseball nerd, that is heaven for you, of a conversation of two guys just sitting there talking defense, two of the best to ever do it. Available now on claibsonline.com. ClaiborneandJoe.com. We will take a break. When we come back, we got other stuff to talk about. The city was buzzing this weekend with MLS soccer for the first time ever. Talk about that game when we come back. It's Lunch with Claibs and Joe, powered by Ameren, Illinois, driven by Mungenast St. Louis Acura.
There's always been a bright side to living in downstate Illinois. Ameren, Illinois is making it even brighter with a little help from the sun. Right now, we're building a next-generation solar facility to bring you cleaner energy for generations to come. It's good for the environment, your neighborhood, and everyone living in downstate Illinois. That's brighter thinking. That's energy at work. Learn how you can participate in solar programs at amerenillinois.com/renewables.
Back here, Lunch with Claibs and Joe, powered by Ameren, Illinois, driven by Mungenast St. Louis Acura, and all of our spring training coverage brought to you by Mungenast Burkhardt Alton Toyota. Mike Claiborne there in the broadcast booth at Roger Dean Chevrolet Stadium. First pitch for Cardinals and Mets today. What is about an hour and is it what 1 o'clock?
1:05
locally for you. So about an hour and 40 minutes away from that. You can hear Claibs on the call at some point in the game today on KMOX. Later on, that's probably later in the game where you got to really dig down into those single A, double A players.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm ready.
Come up with some backstories or really do your research on who these guys are, right?
Yeah, you know what though? Let me tell you, it's interesting you bring it up in that manner. The new rules as far as the pitch clock affects broadcasters as well. And if you like to talk, this is not a good situation for you. So if you think a person talks too much, then I can assure you that you will notice a difference. Not with our broadcast, but I've just talked to a couple of other broadcasters here recently about the fact that, it's a little bit more condensed. One of the great things about baseball on the radio, you can tell stories. You may not be able to get a story in with one at bat. So I would encourage anybody to listen to the games, and you'll notice the difference on how this thing works. You just don't have the time.
And you're doing the game streaming tomorrow with Matt Pauley, right?
Matt Pauley and I will
be to your right, isn't he?
Yes, he is right here to my right. He's already prepping for tomorrow.
Nice. That's my guy, Matt Pauley.
There he is right there.
There he is. We'll be sure to tune in streaming that tomorrow on is it Cardinals.com?
I think Matt Pauley will push me over the 1,515th person I've actually worked with in a 42-year career.
Oh, yeah?
I think it's some sort of milestone. I mean, it's funny because, I had to come back to St. Louis for this luncheon the other day, and some young reporter was interviewing me, and he said, "Can you count all the people you work with?" And I said, "Man, we don't have that kind of time. I got to be back in Florida tomorrow."
Yeah. I can't. I've been doing this 12, 13 years. I couldn't count how many people. Yeah, there's people I'm going to forget on that list.
Yeah, I don't even try and count them because I will forget someone.
Yeah, and then I got guys like John Marisek, who I'm doing radio shows with now every Saturday on 590, our wrestling show. He's going on social media and posting pictures from spring training 15 years ago, saying it's the best times he's ever had in radio. And I'm sitting there, I'm going, "Hey man, we're you and I, we're still working together right now."
Yeah, let's focus here.
Yeah.
Let's focus.
Hey,
it is a fun time though. I try and tell everybody who works here, you put more work in here than you do during the season. The clock is different. Matt and I are here at the ballpark around 8 every morning. Clubhouse is open till 9. Then we interview the manager, and guys will work out. And if and then all of a sudden you got a game. But the neat thing about the game, these games have been under 2.5 hours, and nobody's complaining about it. So that's the plus to it. But it can prove to be a long day. If you're a writer, you can be here till 5 or 6 o'clock.
Yep. Oh yeah.
And
absolutely.
the coaches, the poor coaches, they'll be here 6:30. First meeting is at 7:30, and they may be here till 5 or 6 at night.
Yeah. Hey, this weekend we saw the debut of STL City SC. The MLS season kicked off, and the Dogs win their first game 3-2 down in Austin. First time since 2018 that an expansion team won their very first game of their debut game. Did you watch most of that game the other night?
Not
really?
1 second of it. No. You know what? Give me time to get in it. I may watch some of this. I'm not. Let me just. I'm gonna get off on a rant here for a minute.
All right.
I think that there's a lot of people media wise that have bent over backwards to make this team welcome, support them when they were trying to get this thing off the ground. And I think in return, they've been horseshit. Okay. And how they've dealt with certain media people. Now, I'm not me included. I don't really care. Okay. I got something to do every Saturday night. I got baseball. But I think the way they've handled some things, I'm a little disappointed. So while I'm not going to boycott them or anything, it's just probably not as big of an issue on my list of things to do because I got something else to do. Same thing with the Battlehawks. I mean, the Battlehawks play when I work. So while I hope they all do well, I don't think anybody wants to see your local team fall on their face. But I think that St. Louis City could have done some things a little different. Period.
The game I watched all 90 minutes of it the other night, and I got to tell you.
So wait a minute. I understand that there's some people's their internet it was frozen there for a while.
I didn't have any issues.
Okay,
I was over to I was out watching it. Did not have any issues watching the stream. I heard people complain about the audio. The audio for me was absolutely fine. Zero issues with that on my experience of it. But I will say this. I went into it. I don't know a single player on the team. Can't remember any of the names of the players that were that played or scored goals. I think Parker was one of them, maybe in the game. But I will tell you this: I went into it. I bet on the game being a draw, and I bet on it being 0-0. That was my hope.
Soccer.
Yeah, the first time, for the first game, I bet soccer. I'm not going to make it a regular thing, but I was hoping for a 0-0 draw. That would have made me some good money.
So do we need to have intervention here, man? Because you got a family, man. All right, losing money on a soccer game. Here's the other thing. Let me get back on the soapbox for a minute. Bill McDermott is Sir Soccer to St. Louis, right? I mean, he's seen more than most, he's forgotten more than most people have seen or covered. How this organization does not have Bill McDermott involved in the broadcast is the ultimate head scratcher. Because I can tell you this, he knows more than the people who are doing it, and I don't even know him. Okay? So how you do this and you alienate such a large group of loyal soccer fans, not these Johnny-come-latelys. I'm talking about people who understand and have been supportive of soccer, whether it's at Heine Miney Field or at this place they play now. How Bill McDermott's not involved in this? You explain that to me. Yeah, fortunately, KMOX is going to have Sir Soccer is going to have a show on KMOX. But what happens? I mean, again, that one of my flaws, one of my faults with this situation. So I'm done talking about it. Let's move on to something else.
I was just going to say, all I was going to say about it was watching that game, the 90-minute game that it was exciting. It was exciting to watch. Again, if it was not a team that had St. Louis in front of their name, I would have not watched it. I wouldn't have known that the MLS season had started. At some point, I'm not going this Saturday, but at some point, I imagine I will go to a game at City Park. I'm sure it'll be a fun experience, but this is not something that I plan on sitting down and making my Saturdays revolve around for the entire season. It was fun to see. If they're good, they're good. I should have bet on them winning the MLS Cup. It was, I think, 10,000 to 1 odds before the game started. Then it was 500 to 1 odds after their first win.
Okay, I'll let your betting practices stay with you. I'm not going to touch that.
If you knew my betting practices, you would know that there is zero risk involved in this being.
No such thing. No such thing. No such thing. Yeah, that's how guys end up in interventions. Just with that attitude you have. No, there's no risk. It's a sure thing. There's no such thing as sure.
When you're betting $1 on the game, Claibs,
okay,
it's fine.
That goes out of your kids' scholarship fund. $1 less.
You mentioned the Battlehawks earlier. We've talked about them. They're 2-0 now. They played Thursday night. The good story coming out of this is A.J. McCarron and the fact that he gave up being a backup quarterback in the NFL because he just wanted to play somewhere where he would be on the field all the time. His kids would see him play. Now he's 2-0. it's a good story. He probably gave up a lot of money to do it, but he's getting to play, and that's more important to him than being a backup.
Well, I see your point, but I don't know how many teams are really, burning up his phone to make sure he can come in for training camp. I mean, he was a good, serviceable player. Maybe this is the only option he had. Maybe this gives him more credibility where he can go in and compete for a backup. I mean, here's the thing, Joe. This guy's been around too long not to – if he hasn't been seen by now,
right,
I'm not sure if it's going to happen because he's on an XFL team.
What needs, for these quarterbacks on these XFL teams, what might benefit them in the long run is the NFL eventually going back and allowing 3 quarterbacks on a roster.
Good point.
Because right now you get the 2 quarterbacks. I think we saw enough issues last year with quarterbacks getting hurt and being out of the game, and there being a call for that 3rd quarterback to be added back on.
Yep.
I think that is where these guys would benefit from that.
I would agree. You would hope it wouldn't come to that, but you know what? At least he can take a snap and knows what to do. So, yeah, I agree with you on that. Maybe it gives him a bigger opportunity. So we wish him the best.
Yeah. No home game again for them this week. I think their first home game.
When they open up July 4th?
They're
Jeez. They have the season already. They haven't been in St. Louis yet.
Their first
it's not like the building is being used for anything.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. There's volleyball down there. There's youth volleyball going down there that brings in thousands of people. I mean, you saw the news story, which let's get into it, Claibs. I have it here on the list. You're with the safety issues and concerns of downtown St. Louis.
Yeah, that's a two-edged sword there. I know Kim Gardner is catching a lot of heat, and you know what? Some of it's justified. But here's the thing. You can only recommend to the judge what should take place. Revoke his bond, do things that – the judge is the person who makes a final decision here. Okay? So it's both sides are culpable here, and they got to figure it out because, this is getting into people's pockets now, all right? Yeah. And we can't continue to have this. So, but it's also, in my opinion, some people are trying to take advantage of it for ulterior reasons on why they want to all of a sudden take over the city. Bottom line is this: they got to work it out. They got to put all the gamesmanship aside and figure out what are we doing wrong on why we're dealing with this on a regular basis to the point where people are changing their vacation plans and tournament plans because they don't feel St. Louis is safe.
Right. And that's something, I mean, it's the Cardinals, they have their own little bubble, down where that is. Where Ballpark Village, where the Cardinals are, that's their own little bubble. And I think the DeWitts do a good enough job of making people feel safe in that area. But it's where you expand out that's where the issues begin.
Well, yeah, you're right. And you think about all the money that's being invested in security around the ballpark and around downtown. I mean, that's a lot of money. It's a whole lot of money. It's only going to be more.
Yeah.
So they got to figure it out, and it won't happen overnight. I think we have to take that into account too. There's some things that have to be done differently. How about just enforcing the laws on the books? Yeah. And when a guy gets locked up, he gets popped, and he's done. Okay, got to set an example somewhere.
And when he violates his ankle monitor 50 times, then maybe at some point too. Yeah, we do
that's
something.
My point about if the circuit attorney knew that this person had violated it 50 times and said to the judge who was handling the case, "Hey, judge, this guy's been 50 times," then that's the judge's point to revoke his probation and put his ass in jail.
Mm-hmm. We will take our final break. We come back, Blues talk, and a little bit of from the hoops world. We will get to all that right here on Lunch with Claibs and Joe, driven by Munganast St. Louis Acura, powered by Ameren, Illinois, here on ClaibsOnline.com.
St. Louis Acura has an unbeatable selection of new and pre-owned vehicles. We have over 200 vehicles on hand and in transit. Get the new 2023 MDX or Integra with up to $1,000 in loyalty. Rebates and financing as low as 3.9% for 60 months. You can also lease the 2023 MDX for as low as $599 a month. Or get a pre-owned certified MDX with 3.99% financing. St. Louis Acura, better than ever for you.
Wrapping things up here on Lunch with Claibs and Joe. The NHL trade deadline is coming up this Friday. I don't know who the Blues have left to trade. I guess one defenseman, but Barbashev is gone. You know what? The return on him, a 2019 first-round draft pick. The guy's still young, and maybe a look at what the future Blues might look like.
So when this deal was made, I made a few phone calls because I've never seen this young man play. And people who don't live in St. Louis, who have seen him and scouted him, and they basically, one guy just said CP, can't play. Not the National Hockey League level. Not a great skater, doesn't have a big shot, not as physical. I mean, the Quebec League has always been kind of a soft league, okay? So is he a third or fourth line guy? Don't we have enough of them? So I don't know. Maybe a change in the environment would be something that he needs. But, you know, some people were surprised he was taken by the Avalanche when he was. And I'm not trying to pin this whole trade scenario on one person because we have some suspects. We don't have prospects. We don't know if any of these guys can play. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, but we have to give them a chance to get in a different organization and see what they can do as far as growth is concerned. You know, I don't have a problem trading any of these guys. All right. They've been given ample opportunity to perform and they didn't. And I'm not blaming the ones who've been traded. I'm really kind of blaming some of the ones that are still here. But when it's all said and done, you got to turn the page and move on. And if you really like a guy, if you really like Barbashev, if you really like O'Reilly, then you can make a way to try and bring them back if they want to come back. As far as Tarasenko is concerned, he can stay in New York. They're already climbing on him.
Yeah, I saw that.
He's had a couple of nights where he just was out. He was being Tarasenko of St. Louis.
Yeah.
And here's something we didn't talk about. You know, he had the nerve to say that the Blues never offered me a contract. Well, wait a minute. It was 2 years ago. You said you didn't want to be here. So why would they offer you a contract? I mean, can you explain that to me?
No, it makes sense. Yeah, he didn't want to be here.
He had the nerve to say they didn't offer him a contract, and he was the one that asked out.
Yeah.
So wherever he's at, let him stay there.
Claibs, let's wrap it up on a positive note. Let's talk about Dame time. Damian Lillard last night, 71 points. And when you dig into the numbers of what he did last night and historically how impressive that game was, Claibs, he played less than 40 minutes in the game last night. Here is a list, all-time list of players who have played under 40 minutes, most points scored in a game. Carmelo, Steph Curry, Kobe, they scored 62 in a game playing under 40 minutes. Jerry West and George Gervin, they once scored 63 points playing under 40 minutes. Damian Lillard last night scored 71 points playing under 40 minutes in the game.
You know, I was kind of watching something last night, and it popped up. He had 41 at the half.
Mm-hmm.
And I called somebody. I said, well, he can get to 80 if he plays the fourth quarter. And, you know, you don't see guys in that situation where they stay on the floor that long. You know, he might have been as efficient as anybody I've seen since Klay Thompson. Remember when Klay Thompson dropped 60-something on somebody?
Yep.
And remember how he did it in a very short manner.
Like one quarter, he scored almost all of them.
Yeah, and the thing about him was they count the dribbles that he took. I mean, he was just taking them and shooting it, man. So Matt Pauley made an interesting observation. He said he might be as exciting as anybody in the NBA right now. And when you think about the fact that anytime he has the ball in his hands, the basket is an option. Shooting the ball is an option. From when they inbound it to when they cross half court to certainly when he gets below the free throw line. And, you know, he's not a big man, and he takes a pounding, but he's as game as anybody out there. Certainly worth the price of admission. But here's the problem that you have with that. With a guy who's that volatile scoring-wise, what does that do to the rest of the team? Because, you know, you want to try and make sure everybody's involved. You know, I don't know who the Blazers are anymore. Because, you know, you can say, hey, let Dane get his. We can slow these other guys down.
Yeah.
And when you have a situation like that, I don't think that makes you a very effective team. Now, they'll get in postseason, you know, but I don't know how long they'll stay because, you know, Dame can carry you, but you need more than that. Now, there's a couple of teams like Portland. They can beat anybody because of him, but they can't beat everybody. And we have more teams that are in postseason or will be in postseason that have that moniker of any given night. But I don't know if you can do it in every series.
Yeah, right now I'm bringing up the standings here because I don't know where the Blazers are standing right now with that, and they're actually on the outside looking in of the postseason.
They'll get in.
They're the 11th seed right now in the
They'll
Western Conference.
be in the playing game and wipe somebody out.
Yeah, so they have some work to do there. Lakers 12th behind Portland on that list. Claibs, we will let you get going back to your prep work for today's game, Cardinals and Mets. And as you've mentioned before, you and Matt Pauly will be on the streaming side of things for tomorrow.
Stream team in action tomorrow. Don't forget Rick Hummel makes his debut today as well.
Commissioner's just calling me, actually, so I need to call him back.
And we'll post his fine writings, and later in the week, he and I will do a sit down and shoot the breeze as well. So we have that working for us. If you haven't seen the Ozzy Arenado piece, check it out. It's up online, and we'll have a few other things coming your way later in the week.
All right. If you want to hear more of Claibs, tune in to the Cardinal broadcast. Camo X today be filling in the later innings with John and Ricky on that one. And until then, plenty of stuff coming up for you all week long on claibsonline.com. He's Mike Claiborne. I'm Joe Roderick. This has been Lunch with Claibs and Joe here on claibsonline.com.
As one of St. Louis's fastest growing companies and largest private companies, St. Louis Acura is proud to serve you and remains committed to becoming better than ever for you. As new Acuras become more available every day, we are not backing down from selling 100% more quality pre-owned vehicles than ever before. We want customers that appreciate our friendly, outgoing team and our award-winning service because at St. Louis Acura, we are better than ever for you.